poetry. We hail your might, your power to move and to amaze. You are a beacon in the night, a guiding light to life's maze. That, dear viewer, is an ode to poetry. We are riding on those wings of poetry on this edition of The Bookshelf, coming to you live on Western Spring Television. My name is DAMILOLA RAPHAEL, and I am honored to be your host on this platform. Remember that we do everything and everyone that has a relationship with books right here on The Bookshelf. Today, we are going out. Whee! I feel like a school child who is going on a field trip, I promise. We went out. And of course, that going out had something to do with the introduction, poetry. Let's go on this field trip together, and we'll be back on the other side of it to wrap it up. Stay with us. Poetry is a form of literature that uses the aesthetic qualities of language, such as sound, rhythm, and imagery, to create a work of art. It can be used to express a wide range of human emotions, from joy and love to sorrow and anger, to tell stories, explore ideas, and create new worlds. Poetry has been around for thousands of years, and it has been written in every culture in the world. Some of the earliest known poems were written in Mesopotamia and Egypt as far back as over 5,000 years ago. Elements of poetry include imagery, that is, the use of language to create a mental picture in the reader's mind. Figurative language, used in a non-literal way to create a more vivid or expressive effect. Some common types of figurative language include metaphors, similes, and personification. Sound devices. These are poetic techniques that use the sound of words to create a certain effect. Some common sound devices include alliteration, assonance, and consonance. Rhythm and meter. Rhythm is the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in a line of poetry. Meter is a specific type of rhythm that follows a regular pattern. There are many different types of poetry, each with its own unique characteristics. Some of the most common types of poetry include lyrical poetry, which is the most subjective type of poetry, often used to express the poet's personal emotions and experiences. Narrative poetry, which tells a story, often using characters, plots, and settings. Dramatic poetry, which is meant to be performed and includes dialogue and monologues. Free verse. Now, this does not follow any traditional rules of meter or rhyme. The Poets in Nigeria Initiative's cross-country poetry festival started in 2015 with the wild idea of celebrating poetry across the nation on the same day, at the same time, and with one theme. On Saturday, 21st October 2023, Joel Oyeleke hosted the cross-country celebration of poetry at the Jubilee Gardens, OAU Ile-Ife, with an inspiration to bring poetry to the limelight. This year's edition featured readings, spoken word performances, and a panel session. A freelance ghostwriter with a long prose fiction career who enjoys the realms of music, art, psychology, and dabbles into politics, Taiwo Ademuyiwa Fashoyin, Marcel, performed a spoken word piece.
I wonder what we sweat for. Who cares for the depressed, flawed, oppressed, poor, and less fortunate as they press forth in their quest for daily bread or less crumbs that they will savour after paying taxes, when they've swept floors and walked until they bled from their sweat pores. And yet, this country goes more into debt and drowns in more tears than we can let pour and fears than we can let sow. And so we hide our sighs behind the lies, the tweets, and the memes, disguised in smile while reprise defeats our dreams. Here, we are caught in a nasty loop. while Satan and his civil servants sit at the helms of our vocal cords and steal the songs from our souls, prayers have made a throne of our tongues. You know the usual. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. But when will thy kingdom come to this country? They said the horses that signified dignity on our coat of arms took a part-time job to pull a chariot and swing low to lead Prophet Elijah up to heaven. But they took that avenue to Japa and they never came back. So every morning, we humble our knees at the foot of eternity, begging that the red eagle on the national sigil will enter his gates with thanksgiving and the sound of our fervent wailing in his heart. But it got lost in a thick veil of weathered dreams that hangs in the air, threatening to soak up the sound of our laughter before it escapes our throats. He said, excuse the crime, but what use could lie in being a martyr? Choose a side. You decide if you'd rely on the police who'd rather see you brutalized or crucified. If you do not mind the youth in you to be euthanized, but who am I to lose my life for a country that wants to kill me? Or for a future I can almost guarantee is not coming. It's not funny. Yesterday and 3 years ago, youth like you and I watered seeds of struggle planted on tarred roads at Lekki toll gates with our blood. There we watched dreams become nothing. And even though our revolution was televised, the government acted as though it was all staged, like our heroes were nothing but prop messiahs who died in vain, like blood money, as they sacrificed our future on an altar of greed for chicken change. He told me, you're a poet, a 300-level student of English. Your tongue is refined in academic jargon and literary jargon. When you speak with your jailer, it's obvious that you put the pun in ponder and metaphors in university. You are eloquent when you enunciate your rhymes and your knowledge of your rights. But what use is that knowledge in the face of a loaded AK? Shey you dey play me? He said, I hate this country. I was shocked. He said, I hate this country and I'm going to jackpot. Shine your eye and jackpot too. I would jump off with no parachute if I must. But nothing will let me plummet into dystopia as I ride on the backs of this nasty nation with wilting wings of pitiful poetry written in the bitter but beautiful blood of my brave brother. Recited in the mournful voices of our forefathers. I was too shocked to respond, but then a question hit me. And I asked him, I said, you said we watered seeds of struggle at Lekki toll gate and watered it with our blood. He said, yes. I said, don't you want to see what flowers will bloom? You know, one thing about the future is that a lot of people say that we can't predict it, but that's a lie. The future that we can predict is only one that we make ourselves. And so, if it is true that this nation is a nasty one with wilting wings of pitiful poetry written in blood, then it is up to you and I to become lines and verses of hope. Maybe, just maybe, if you and I become the wings of this nation, of wings of poetry, then perhaps this nation will one day soar again.
Multiple slam champion and budding actor testimony, Jesu Tofumi, lit up the dark clouds.
This is more than a country. This is a home of heritage and culture, peace, unity, and growth. This is a citadel of harmony of different tribes that sees themselves as one. This is Nigeria. This is the heart of Africa. Though we were bound in chains, our freedom we gained. Our heroes fought with the strength of Niger and Benue in their veins. All this will not be in vain. Over 200 million people in 250 ethnic groups, speaking over 500 languages, occupying 925,72769 kilometers square. Indeed, this is more than a country. Those things fall apart, and life is no longer at ease. The woman next door keeps a secret like the secret lives of Baba Shegi's wives. Yet, she calls the neighbors a beast of no nation and sometimes a second-class citizen. But still, we will fight against these odds, and I assure you, everything good will come. No matter what we are passing through, this green will glow again, and we will call it emerald. This white stained with memories will become a constellation of light, for this is our home. This is our heritage. This is Nigeria. We are blacks that can't crack, shake, or bend. No matter the whirlwind, the water, where the coconuts no fit fall. If Hausa sees the Yorubas as a family, and the Igbo sees the Hausa as a kindred, then nothing can shake nor threaten this country, for this is our fortress. We walk in, yet we stood the test of time. The clock keeps ticking, chiming. The years keep counting, and here we are. You can call us a priest because God has anointed us with oil. This well won't run dry. Though the national cake no they go round, but trust me, we go bake another. The presidents will value the residents. Our currency will be as strong as Asorok. The table manners we taught will be of use because manna will be on our tables. Let doubting Thomas keep doubting, it go shock him. That the rain that drenched us will wash our cars soon. This skeleton of hunger will be clothed with flesh again. Our roads won't be a voyage of death. And in the Police Force Federation League, bail will be free. But let's keep praying. Let's keep praying that those praying on us will one day become our prey. Let's work towards unity. Let's build on love, because that is the only makeup that can make up our past. Until then, that is when we can tell those doubting us that Akara Moimoi get the same parents and waiting they pass to make them different. That the difference between the pekere and plantain chips is packaging. That they should watch out for a new Nigeria. For we started this race. This us must gallop.
Author of Twisted Tongues, published by Outman in 2017, and the immediate past public relations officer of Great Ife Students' Union, Taufik Olalekan Ogunperi, was one of the panelists for the cross-country poetry festival.
That poets are like musicians who are unable to fulfill their desires and music. I strongly disagree with that. So that's that. Generally in Nigeria, poetry is growing. I mean, we are here now. This is part of the growth. But we can. I think when you ask that question, you are talking from an understanding that certain art forms have progressed much more than poetry, in the entertainment industry and all those things related to art. Maybe production of films and movies are much more accepted as means of communication and celebration of art, rather than poetry and or because there is this belief, especially among young Nigerians, that poetry is that textual mathematics that you can't just easily solve. It's going to amount to a sort of intellectual laziness if anybody just discards poetry as another form of textual mathematics. By that I mean mathematics written in ABC and not in 1, 2, 3. So I would like to say that, well, poetry is not where it can be, I mean, at best in this country, but I believe strongly that it's going to be better. Of course, there are many rooms for improvement. There are rooms for improvement, ranging from how poets are recognized and how poets are celebrated. For instance, the idea of poet laureate is quite strange in Nigeria.
Very strange.
I don't know if there is any part of this country where you might have a poet laureate, and when you look outside Nigeria, you find something like this. It's a means of celebrating poets. But beyond this, if we look at how poetry developed, and became something that is rooted in Nigerian literature, you see that each generation of poets have their own business. Like when I say business, I mean something that binds them together, even if they do not formally recognize it. The first generation of Nigerian poets were more or less like people who were mimicking the poets they read and they read, and then you have those who are quite political and were demanding for national identity, like Wole Soyinka and others. And then you have this generation of Nigerian poets who are assessing the situations and even questioning the cultural beliefs that we already have. So I would say that we're actually progressing. There is this school of thought about art for art's sake. Poetry is a very serious form of art. I mean that you can't have poems without having something critical to deal with. But then I wouldn't say that people are writing just because they want to reflect the state of the country. We are influenced by so many things, and that brings us to the nature-nurture belief, the nature-nurture prism from psychology. Poets are humans first and foremost, and if you wake up as a student and from 20,000 naira you find out that your school fees is now 76,000 naira, something must change in you. You must feel somehow. And we draw inspirations from so many things, from things you enjoy to things you don't enjoy. So I would say yes, it's actually a reflection of what is happening in the society. But we of course have people writing love poems and writing very bright things. But then art is not particularly, in my own view, something that should be for art's sake.
Yeah.
If poets are now reflecting what we have, then it's not only a way of archiving what we are currently going through, it's a way of reviewing the situation and allowing the people in the political class and the public to have a very deep understanding of the fact that what we are going through is not normal. We can't wish away the fact that Nigeria is in a very troubled state. So if we close our eyes as artists, because art to reflect the society, yes. So if artists are not writing about what we are going through, that means we are creating a false utopia, and which we will never attain. There is one thing that we need to understand. Idea will outlive man. And you see, when somebody believes that poetry should necessarily bend towards them, then something is fundamentally wrong. We cannot bend poetry for people. People will come to the understanding of poetry, and the idea of poetry and what makes a poem shifts from generation to generation. If you look at the canon of English literature, you will see what you have in the time of William Wordsworth is not the same as what you had before him, and things have been changing from time. And you see, the word poetry in a loose sense is not only referring to what we write in lines and stanzas. If something strikes you rather so beautifully and so maybe weirdly, strangely, it has a poetic undertone to it. So if something is deeply beautiful or disturbing, it is poetic. So we don't necessarily have to make poetry beg for audience because somebody complains that they can't relate. You will relate if your school fees has been increased and you don't have any means, and somebody comes up with a poem lamenting it. Nobody needs to school you on how to properly read it. So a poem, the people who complain about that want a poem to be a room, whereas a poem is a door, and where it leads you to, I can't tell you, even as a poet who has written it. You are the one who relates to it. That's why we have so many schools of thought about literary criticism and theory. You have those who believe that the readers are participants in the business of meaning making when you are reading a piece of literature. So if you take a poem and you are reading it, there is a way that it will personally make meaning to you. And if I happen to read it, I might find another meaning. So we can't create poetry towards the satisfaction of a particular section of society. Humans with that, poems will remain.
A novelist, poet, and literary translator, whose debut novel will be published by Abibiman, United Kingdom this year, Isaiah Adepoju, was also one of the panelists.
I think it is very important that there are grants and then there are fellowships and then residencies. I think there are a lot of things going on in the country, and there is always the burden of creation. I think that is what Raphael calls it, the burden of creation, how poets, how they create. So for us to be able to have this detachment from society and from the pressures and everything else, you need a place to conceive of yourself. You need money, you need finance, you need everything else. You need that space to create. Now, in Tajuko's Every Day is for the Thief, when he was lamenting about the poor state of art in Nigeria, I said, it is very hard to create as a Nigerian in Nigeria. That is why we have influx of Nigerian literature, but from the diaspora. So I think it is very important that we have some kind of relief from the government, from NGOs, from private individuals. I think so many people just think poetry is elitist. That means the kind of poems you're writing is not good enough. But I think that is just individual burdens. I am my own best artist. I create the best poem. So when you think, in fact, you don't have to write a poem for you to be a poet. You just, poetry for the dumb, not a spoken thing. Poetry for the handicapped is not a written thing. It is just, a kind of perception. How do you perceive of the world? So if you think about it in the circle of students, especially academic students who are interested in the study of literature, I think we just have to domesticate poetry. We have to prostitute it. You cite it when you're in the bathroom, when you're in the toilets, anywhere. It doesn't have to be the kind of what kind of poetry. It doesn't have to be the Shoyinka kind of poetry. It doesn't have to be the Walpole or whatever kind of poetry. You just have to domesticate it. Say it in simple words, in simple language. Then I think it just makes people free with interpreting poems. Okay, I think it is W.H. Auden who said, poetry does nothing. And in fact, I think it is very true, poetry does nothing. Now, if you want to politicize poetry or prostitute poetry, you must know you are doing it at your own risk, because the more you are invested in the arts, the more you seem a little bit frustrated, because when people come to the arts, they want relief, they want entertainment, they want sometimes some kind of intellectualization of the secular. But when you write a poem and then you expect that immediate response and you don't get it, you become a slave of that kind of poetry. And poetry is not supposed to be like that. Poetry is not, though, where you empty your feelings. It is also where you come to think. Writing is supposed to be a thinking place. You don't have to pour your ideologies, pour your philosophies into your poems. Poem is just where you make sense of the world. Okay, what I think is that we think too much, because now, Romeo Yogun, he won the NLNG, I think last year, and then he was a Facebook poet. And Taizo Burumu was a Facebook poet. And even this critic, Ikide Keloa, is saying digital literature. Many people are poets who are unaware of their own poetry. So Facebook is where you ramble on about poems, about poetry, where you think about life, making meaning of existence. So I think that is very creative in a sense. That is forward moving. And Nigerian literature is being at its best. Because we keep on winning these prizes, we keep on making all this discussion about what poetry or what Nigerian literature should entail.
Now, all of us would have been all shades of grey without a spice of Eve. Thanks to Rhoda Ebunoluwa Adegboyega, a voiceover artist and hairstylist who came up with this one.
Her name is She. She is beautiful. Her beauty radiates strength. Her beauty radiates peace. Her beauty radiates character that can never be compared to anything. Her beauty is her strength. Her beauty is not makeup. Her beauty is not well-lined lip. Her beauty is not a shaped eyebrow. Her beauty is peace. Her beauty is love. Her beauty is strength. Her beauty is kindness. Her beauty radiates love. Her beauty is not sadness. Her beauty is strength. Her name is She. Her beauty is peace. Her beauty exudes a lot of capacity. Her beauty brings the shining strength she had kept in a long time ago. Her beauty is peace. She is beauty. She might be going through pain, but she radiates strength. Her beauty is peace. Her beauty is love. Her beauty is character. Her beauty is strength.
And that is how it was wrapped up as the cross-country celebration of poetry with the theme, A Nation on the Wings of Poetry. Sincere appreciation to everyone who came on, in spite of the threat of rain. And that's about how it went down right there at the Jubilee Gardens of the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Osun State. Just maybe one day through, we would also be able to defy the weather or whatever other challenges and come, bring you on the bookshelf, as we always say right here. Remember, keep writing. Maybe this time, keep speaking. And just one day, the world will watch you. Wow. Wow, wow, that was a thrill. Did you see all that? Did you feel all that? Now, did you hear all of that? Most importantly, did you understand all of that? Because it's the understanding that will propel you into action. Remember, great things start small. Great things start small. I've said it before on this platform that whatever it is you do, just do it. Just one fine day. We are going to be bringing you here. Bringing on Joel Oyeleke. He wasn't aware of it. He didn't know we caught wind of what he was doing. And hey, you just saw him. When will we see you? We'd only see you if you do it. I look forward to seeing you on another edition of The Bookshelf. Until then, my name is DAMILOLA RAPHAEL, and I'm saying goodbye and God bless.